Good morning, everyone. Joe Scarice, and welcome to the Creative Birth Strategy Podcast and here live on Clubhouse. So let's get ourselves started up. Another great week of education, networking, and strategy. So we just got back from the Mr. Landlord Expo. Pretty excited about that. That was a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. About 200 real estate investors live in Indianapolis, Indiana. We did do a podcast from there live as well. So we will have that out, pushed out as well, edited for a lot of you to listen into. Let me invite some peeps in here and get started here in the next few minutes. Our discussion this morning is about real estate investment principles. We're going to cover investor principles, agent principles. We'll try to take a deep dive into those strategies and that discussion for the next 60 minutes and see where it goes. Just going to invite some people in here, and then I'll just invite some people up as well as moderators. Just give me a quick second, and we'll get rocking and rolling here in just a few minutes. So yes, quite an exhausting last 3 days of real estate networking and investing. Very engaged group. I have to say, I did the last year's Mr. Landlord Expo in Columbus, Ohio, and there was probably a little more people there, maybe about another 50 people. Maybe it was 250, 260. But the quality of the investor that was at this event in Indianapolis, it was a very secluded location, hotel at the Delta Marriott outside the airport. So you really couldn't go anywhere. And I originated and put together over $30 million worth of loans in the past 3 days with investors there, whether it was multifamily, blanket loan type of scenarios, and acquisition of townhomes. It was an amazing, engaged group of people, really just kind of submerging into real estate strategies and opportunities. So I've never had that many term sheets issued for review by clients at an expo in my 25-year experience. So I have to say this was one of the best events that I've ever been to for a concentrated efforts of real estate investors working with their vendors. It was an amazing experience. Jeffrey and his wife put together a great event. They keep you moving through the entire 3 days. A lot of engagement, a lot of deeper discussions, roundtable discussions. We facilitated roundtable discussions for the event. I spoke as well in front of the audience, the real estate professionals. It was very, very, very engaging, I have to say. So I want to thank them for the opportunity, and I probably will most likely, unless something happens, sponsor the event again next year. I think everybody should experience the Landlord Expo. I think it was a very engaging event, and the discussions there, people are just looking for deals, identifying deals, underwriting deals, strategizing together. I've never seen such camaraderie. I mean, obviously there's some ego and floating around the room, but that kind of minimizes when you have a lot of humble individuals in there that own 100, 200 properties, 30 properties, 50 properties. A lot of that ego kind of gets thrown out the window because they don't got time for that. They got time to learn and educate themselves amongst professionals and experts. And that's what separates the herd. And that's what separates a lot of people, because people that are beating their chest don't usually work out with the guys that are not beating their chest and staying silent and doing what they're supposed to do and staying under the radar. And I think that kind of ties in to our discussion today. I want to let everybody know we're doing some restructuring on our meetings throughout the Northeast region. We are going to be holding events under a new umbrella for all the events called Real Estate Mastermind Strategies. We kind of parted ways with the lead deal makers, which is fine. They're still a great group. It just didn't make a lot of sense from a growth perspective. So we just had a great event Thursday night with Dave DeVito in Connecticut at our corporate office in Westport. Had about 25 people at that mastermind. So we're going to be in Connecticut, North Jersey, South Jersey, Central Jersey, Harrisburg, Middletown, Delaware, which is really the central Delaware. So just say Delaware for that most part. Philadelphia, Lehigh Valley. And we're also popping up some other events as well as happy hours, cigar events. And then I'm attending a ton of events straight through the end of the year. So, anybody interested in getting together or seeing where if I'm going to be in your market, by all means, please let me know. There was definitely a sense of a lot of investor groups coming to Jeffrey's event to identify speakers and vendors for their events as well. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, as always, Mr. Yardall Perkins, our co-founder and co-host of this great podcast. He is with Perkatech. He provides social media analytics and website design and architectural graphic work for his clients, specifically in the real estate space. He's extremely concentrated. We also like to thank Realty 4-in-1, Miss Linda Pelagas, who provides national publication and national events for her clients throughout the country. Lendmark Capital, where I'm a senior loan analyst, providing nationwide asset-based lending in the DSCR space, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, general construction lines of credit, single family to four family, multifamily 5+ units, and or mixed use throughout the country, basically about 46 states. Then I'd like to finally thank MB Capital Solutions, where I am a referral partner in the unsecured business line of credit space. Michael Giangelo was my colleague out there in Indiana, and we really worked the rooms and worked with the clients in regards to unsecured business lines of credit. And finally, I'd like to thank TCS Property Management and Maintenance, where I am a licensed real estate agent in New Jersey and PA. So they're great with property management services, but they're sprouting out throughout the country as well. So let's dive into our discussion today, real estate investment principles. Well, first, let's talk about some articles that caught my eye, and then we'll get into the discussion itself. But apartment construction outpaces demand in May, and I knew this was going to eventually catch up with itself. So there's more apartments than people looking to rent. So it's going to be very interesting to watch market rent, DSCR rates, the compression of the profitability, and where cash on cash return will be extremely scrutinized by a landlord to weigh out, is it cost benefit to hold that property out? And does it make sense to do a 30-year fixed? So it's going to be very interesting going into the end of this year. How much is enough? Are people moving out? With job reports kind of really funky right now, and some stagnation in certain spots, it's really going to hard to see where rates are going to kind of land, especially now you got home listings hitting record high as seller returns to the market. So the buyer's market is here, investor market is here. You almost can basically identify opportunities on the MLS at this point. So it's a very interesting timing going into the summer. You really didn't have any type of spring market, and rates kind of closed out at around right at 6.97 on the 30-year. On the conventional side, they're staying pretty steady around 6.875 and 7% on the commercial side with us. Construction money still staying very low at 8.99, maybe a little lower. I can get it depending on the experience and the credit score of the borrower. But very interesting dynamics, seeing a lot of fixed to rent opportunities, a lot of BRRRR strategies coming to submission. I think I submitted somewhere between 12 or 14 fixed to rent and DSCR loans just this past week, but very aggressive tactics by the investors that were at the Landlord Expo. So let's dive in here. Let's just talk real quick about real estate investment principles, and then we'll go to our moderators, of course. There's some core real estate investment principles that guide successful investors when entering or managing real estate assets. Understanding the type of real estate investments. It bewilders me that somebody doesn't know the differences between this, but again, they get stuck on certain terminology. So residential, to me, into the lending space, is single family through four family homes, condos, apartments, townhomes. Commercial is considered office buildings, retail, and industrial. Mixed use combines residential and commercial. Land is obviously undeveloped or raw. And then there's the multifamily space, 5+ units. Typically, small balance is 5 through 12, or maybe sometimes 5 through 15. Anything above that goes into the more the Freddie or Fannie space of multifamily. And then knowing what your investment strategy is, buy and hold, fix and flip, BRRRR strategy, wholesaling, sub two. A lot of this stuff is coming together. I'm sponsoring a lot of sub two groups. It's not all about sub two. It's about creative financing opportunities. There's definitely strategies for everybody. And then running the numbers like financial due diligence, cash flow, income minus expenses, net operating income, cap rate. How does that apply? What type of asset does that tie into? The return on investment, right? Profit versus total investment, and then your internal rate of return, annualized return over the life of the investment, and the most important in my space at least is debt service coverage ratio, NOI versus the debt payments. Then there's location. Location is key. Proximity to amenities, schools, transportation, neighborhood trends, zoning laws, and city development plans. Due diligence is non-negotiable. You need to do a physical inspection of your properties, title check and liens, rent roll and lease agreements, environmental and legal risks. Then leveraging financing wisely, using other people's money, whether it's private money or direct private lending, mortgages, partnerships, late syndications, understanding terms and where the rates are, loan to values, amortization. Now, with the direct private lending, it's very specific to the project and you. People always want me to quote a rate like this, but hey, what's your credit score? What's the DSCR on the property? What's the loan amount? What's the LTV? What's the asset type? Like you need to have those answers for your lending professional, right? Having a property management plan, self-managing versus hiring a professional, tenant screening and retention, maintenance and repairs budgeting. Who's your go-to? And then preparing for market cycles. Real estate moves in cycles, boom, bust, recovery, keeping reserves for the downturns, avoiding overpaying during a hot market. And then finally, there's the continuing education and networking, learning from mentors, courses, books, YouTube University, joining local real estate networking events like RIAs or Networking Grants itself, and following market news and trends. I did post an article out this past week. It's about a week now. It's gotten about 3,000 impressions. RIAs versus private networking real estate groups. And it got a lot of traction because people want to get more information than just the standard stuff. They're seeking outside the RIAs because they've grown out of them very quickly. And the RIAs are kind of stuck on the same thing. They need to kind of pivot here and start looking at masterminding because people want to talk to one another. They want to strategize. They don't want to be sold something. And the article itself wasn't ripping on one or the other. It was just kind of breaking down where it all makes a lot of sense. And this ties into, your principles, okay, as an investor, as an agent, as a service provider in the real estate space. Amy, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to real estate investment principles.
With me, Joe. It's going to date me. For over 18 years, I've been investing in real estate. And I will always be a real estate investor, even though I'm of an real estate which is the trade association for the real estate technology industry in the United States. And so real estate investment principles. There's just so much you have to know if you're going to be a real estate investor. But generally, if you were going to put it in it's principles around how you buy and sell, right? If I were to give people some advice, it would be around please know what your strategy is before you buy it. What's your plan kind of going in? Because your exit strategy is going to determine what your returns are going to be. And then also have a plan B and plan C exit strategy in case something goes haywire, which it invariably does. And then during the purchase process, I mean, everybody says this all the time, but it's so true. Real estate investing takes a team. If you're not started way back in the day because I had a construction company. So the construction side, I was good. I didn't need someone, but not everybody has that background. And so you're gonna need people that you trust in this business and find a couple people that you trust. And if you trust them, they'll refer you other people that they trust, and that's kind of how you build up your network. But if you're gonna do real estate investing, it's a lot of education, and you're constantly educating yourself too. So that would be, it takes a team, got to educate yourself all the time and know what your exit strategy is before you get into the deal. How's that, Joe?
That is a full nickel, not a half. Well, thank you for making your appearance this morning. As always, I love to start off with you or Mr. Martella here coming up in a few minutes here. But thank you again. And I've been watching some of your podcasts. They're going great. Congratulations. Yep. So, this ties into what Amy was talking about is, real estate investor principles. People that were at this event this past week, they were like, they already have the experience, but they're just looking for that one thing that separates themselves. Okay. Like tomorrow night, we're going to have a discussion in Philadelphia with Cheryl Sitman, and we're going to dive into landlording in Philadelphia. It's a very unique place to be a landlord, and we're going to dive into a mastermind, and we're going to open it up to the room. There's probably going to be about 50 people there. It's going to be very engaging, and I look forward because I want to learn something tomorrow night with this interview. I'm going to interview her. We're going to have it live on video. We're going to have it live, at the location as well. Yeah, it's I'm always looking to find something out. You're not going to find it out just going to the same things all over and over again. You got to kind of expand your horizons. You got to do some searches. Like I was talking to Michael at the event. I'm like, Mike, go into Meetup or Eventbrite and look at around 50 miles and see who's doing real estate networking events and see what the subject matter is. Does it hit home with you? Does it make sense to go there and fish in that pond to identify other experts to be in your circle of influence? I have found nobody to be my competition. I feel people should all work together. I met two mortgage brokers at the event. I signed them up for white labeling with us. And I told them, I said, listen, why aren't you working with the unsecured business line of credit program and being a referral partner? Like I was basically trying to provide them opportunities because, yeah, I make an override from them signing up. But again, at the end of the day, it's another shingle on their roof to provide to their clients. Like you need that. Now that you expand your opportunities to somebody that makes you look a little watered down, you offer opportunities that make sense, that tie within what you do every day. It's not a far reach. All right. And I'm not knocking anybody that's doing like something outside of their main principle of real estate, and trying to sell something else. That's I'm talking about what I do in the lending space. I want to work on things that tie into lending. I have a title ownership. I have unsecured business lines of credit. I have ownership of real estate. I have lending. I do private lending. So all that kind of ties in to one another. And it allows me to make really good, strong referrals to people and make proper introductions the right way with integrity. And some core real estate investor principles that I think guide successful investors in making smarter decisions and mitigating risk and building long-term wealth is buy with a margin of safety. Make money when you buy. Buy below market value. Avoid over leveraging and always underwrite conservatively. High vacancy assumptions, low rent growth. Location is still everything. Location, location, location. Invest in areas with strong job growth and population trends and good schools and low crime. Infrastructure and development plans. You can fix a building, but not a neighborhood. Cash flow is king. What is your cash on cash on the property every month? Great, your debt service is 2.0, but you're only making 200 a month. How are you gonna retire with that? You're gonna have to buy 100 properties to make that kind of retirement money. Know your numbers. Master metrics like cap rate, cash on cash return, internal rate of return, net operating income. Analyzing each deal as a business, not an emotional decision. Leveraging wisely and adding value where it's possible, improving units, raising rents, lowering expenses, repositioning the asset, converting to short-term rental, mid-term rental in lieu of maybe a long-term lease, partnering strategically. And that's with contractors, lenders, brokers, property managers. Choosing partners with aligned values and transparency and integrity. Due diligence is non-negotiable. Again, protecting your downside using the LLC, leveraging, using as much of the LLC as possible, staying away from your personal name. I had a client this past week, I worked on a loan not even 2 months ago, 3 months ago. He had a 784 credit score. Now he has a 674 because he refused to listen to me and open up unsecured business lines. He ran up bills on his credit for a project, and now his credit dropped 100 points. You got to play the long game, focusing on long-term wealth building, equity, cash flow, tax advantages. Real estate is not a rich, quick game. It rewards patience and discipline. And going to discipline, Mr. Joseph Martella, thank you for waking up and being part of this great little podcast this morning. Mr. Martella, brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to real estate investment principles.
Good morning, Joe. Long time on. It's been a while since I've been on here, but it hasn't been a long time since we've been speaking.
Exactly.
So I'll admit that we're friends, and I've gotten a lot of text messages to people that I've made friends with during the Mr. Landlord conferences, and that they met you. And while I wouldn't admit that we were friends, I did tell them that you were a good guy.
So. I told them we have dinner every single night.
So, my name is Joseph Martella. I'm a tax lien investor, buy and hold investor, done several BRRRRs, also do private lending. So, the principles, the principles of real estate investing are exactly what you just said, Joe. You kind of took the words out of my mouth, right? Have the direction that you want to go, define it, right, and stick to your guns. When you're a new investor, you want to just hit almost any avenue that you can, whether it's wholesale and BRRRRs or what have you. And we've talked constantly on here and offline of these investors who like to do BRRRRs, and some of them have $200 a month cash flow. I mean, I just spent $1,500 on a washer dryer combo that went bad. What are you going to do to that, right? So if you're doing $200 a month, you have less than $1,000 a year left in your profit margin, hoping nothing else goes wrong. So, so you're running very tight margins in that aspect. So, in my opinion, cash on cash return absolutely is important for you to be mindful of and take advantage of. The next one is, what strategy are you going to use, right? And I believe Amy mentioned that, right? Your exit strategy. And a lot of people are getting involved, especially when the market is hot, into these bidding wars, right? As a real estate investor, you can't bid against the homeowner. You're going to lose every time, and you need to stick to your guns. And you find a lot of real estate investors that don't, and they wind up getting themselves into hot water, whether they bid too much on a rehab, which I'm seeing what's happening at the house right next door to me. They bought the house for $360. They put easy $80,000 into it, if not $100. They're trying to sell it for $499.9, and the market doesn't allow for it. It's a 3-bedroom house. There's 4-bedroom houses that are going in the same neighborhood for $460. So how is someone going to go buy a property for $50,000 more for yours for a small square footage and bedroom space? So that's just another investor that I would say is not as savvy or experienced who made a mistake. So it happens if you don't stick to your guns and do your numbers and don't listen to everybody on your team, right? You have a team, right? You built that team, but you are responsible for the actions that you do, right? If you have a realtor that didn't really know what they were doing and they gave you a bad comp, well, you're left holding the bag. So be very, very cautious on who you put onto your team and the trust that you put in.
So, Joe, what's your thoughts on mixed use, with a storefront, apartments? I mean, I have a program for it, right? And I mean, I'm closing a couple loans here and there on mixed use. But are you concerned? Listen, you're much more savvier to the market and the trends. What would you? I mean, do you even bother looking at that stuff when it's like a three family with a storefront in the front? I mean, do you have concerns with that, with the way the economy is right now? That storefront could stay a lot emptier longer than if it was a 3 unit residential. You know what I mean? What's your concerns there, and what's your thoughts to that from principals and underwriting a deal?
Yeah, I looked at a couple of deals with storefronts, right? And in my opinion, I would say, if you're going to invest in something like that, the apartments need to carry the day when it comes to the cash flow. The storefront just needs to be extra. With storefronts, you have build outs that have to go. I mean, it stays vacant. Just yesterday I was driving around a neighborhood, Stratford, New Jersey, and I was driving with a buddy of mine. He was like, "Oh, that mall over there used to be really, really popular, and now it's empty." People aren't going to malls as much. The landscape has changed. A lot of people just like having their stuff delivered to their house, right? Walmart entered the arena with Amazon. So that alone is going on. So if you don't have to leave your house and you can get it for the same cheap price, why spend the gas and time in going to a mall? So you see that. So you got to be mindful of those trends that when a commercial property is vacant, generally it's vacant for longer. People need a place to live. They don't need a place to go buy stuff anymore. So and your insurance is higher when you go into something like that, right? Because you have traffic and what have you, and a lot of foot traffic, which increases your liability. So something to just consider when you're doing it. If you're putting a kitchen in there, a luncheonette or whatever, your fire insurance is going to go through the roof too. So just stuff that you need to consider. I would look at it to see if it could be converted into a residential unit if I'm going to look at a deal like that. So just some things to keep in mind that you're going to do when you do it.
Last question. What's your thoughts on potentially a extra over the fill amount of rental units right now coming to the front line, and not as many renters, right? There's an unemployment issue. You still can't blame the current government because 4 or 5 months in, it's not their fault. You know what I mean? Like it's obviously the past 4 years of just bad decision making on politically. And I have to say that because I mean you can't blame all the economy right now from 4 months in, 5 months in, 6 months in, even I'd say next year. Then you could say, okay, things did not get better in the current government platform. But do you have a concern with the growing pool of rentals out there and not as many qualified renters or renters as a whole, as a landlord? And what's your thoughts to that? And how are you looking at that now in new endeavors and new acquisitions?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say the same investors on this call offer a different product than what those places are, right? I mean, you and I had this conversation, right? The build to rent a couple of years ago was the hot topic for everything to do. All the contractors were jumping on that, right? There's that huge complex over by where the SJ Rear is done, where they have hundreds of units that are luxury apartments and pickleball and swimming pool, and they make it kind of like a country club. But the amount of rent that those places charge are astronomical. Whereas I'm renting single family houses where people can actually raise a family. They have space, they have a yard. So I think that competition's a little bit different. But I do foresee a saturation in the market, right? There's more apartments that are being built specifically in that work, play, live environments where the malls were huge, and now they're building apartments in part of those areas. So I definitely see that could be a saturation or will be a saturation. But I still don't think that those places that are building can compete with the smaller investor, because we should be buying at better prices and could be offering a better product at a cheaper price, so that those can afford an area. I mean, but yeah, there is concern. I mean, the job market is going to change. I mean, if you think that it's not, I think you're a fool. You have Amy on here that's doing AI, right? We have taxis that are coming online in the next couple of months that are self-driving, right? They're tested now, but they're self-driving. So that's going to be putting your Uber and your Lyft drivers kind of out of business. Not saying that it's definitely going to, there's no need for it, but it's going to play a role. These new factories that are coming to the United States, well, yeah, I think it's absolutely great that we're bringing industry back. You don't think that they're going to be building out with robots and reducing the amount of people needed?
Yeah.
So I do see that that's coming down the road. And I don't know where we go from that, because I don't think new jobs are created from that, right? The people repairing the robots, I mean, you probably need one person for 5 robots as opposed to 5 people doing a job.
Yeah. And thank you for that additional insight. And this ties into the real estate investor friendly agent principles. If you're an agent listening in, you need to have an investor mindset at this point, understanding ROI metrics, thinking like an investor, and knowing investment properties. Like I was down in South Carolina, and I met this professor at Clemson for the real estate school. She had no idea what was going on in the lending space at all. It kind of scared myself and a colleague of mine, this gentleman, Michael, who has been in the industry like myself over 25 years. And we're like, this person is teaching people about real estate. It was eye-opening. You need to understand BRRRR. You need to understand fix and flip. You need to understand house hacking. You need to understand short and long-term rentals, speed and responsiveness. You need to get back to people. Your phone cannot, your voicemail cannot be all filled up. Schedule same-day showings, submitting offers fast, pulling comps and data within hours, not days. Data-driven approach. You got to run CMAs for your clients. They want that. Estimating rehab costs. When's the last time a realtor that you work with has put together rehab costs and connecting with contractors to put a scope of works together for you to understand your deal? Providing rental comps, local vacancy rates and property taxes, deal sourcing and off-market access, building a network to bring off-market deals, working with wholesalers and probate attorneys and distressed sellers. Like, how much AI as a real estate agent are you using? And constantly scouting for value-add opportunities. Construction and rehab fluency, and market knowledge and negotiation skills. Amy, are you there? Yeah.
All that stuff that you were just talking about,
Yeah.
That you can build out automations.
Yeah.
Or a lot of that to help you, because what's going to happen is, to Joe's point, people are going to get used to a level of service that is AI enabled, that if you were not providing that level of service, because you can't as a human do it as fast as AI can. Like, you cannot. And so if you have, you start looking for those types of services. But I will tell you right now, ChatGPT can do a lot on its own. You as a person who cannot code could probably figure out a way to build your own. There's a lot of no code solutions happening right now. Start looking at it now so you can get the advantage, because that'll at least give you a leg up, or way to create competitive advantage, but it's happening now. I mean, I live here.
Yeah.
I do. Research and different things like that, but it can't be done, and it's not. The cool thing about AI is it's not that expensive, so this kind of levels a playing field for a lot of people. All right,
Thanks, Amy. Thank you. And I agree with her 100%. And you need to stay abreast of what's going on in the market, especially with what's going on in technology. Bob, good morning and welcome. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts or discussion. Real estate investment principles.
Hey, Joe. Good morning. I'm Bob Chesick, president of Chespin Corporation. I help people set up LLCs for real estate investment or any purpose you can imagine. I'm not here to give legal advice as I'm not an attorney. So real estate principles, I kind of keep coming back to a central topic, just listening to what you said. One of the things you have to do is not just set your principles, keep your principles. And by that, I mean, keep your systems in place. You're hearing Amy talk about automating some systems, but AI is not at the point where it's going to fix all your problems. There's still stuff you have to do. With maintaining your properties and all that, you have to make sure that you have some type of plan in place to make sure your properties are maintained and whatnot. Another thing you have to maintain, because Joe mentioned it, talking about the LLCs, you need to maintain your LLCs. For our Delaware customers, which is the largest section of our business, we had a record number of customers not pay their bills to renew with the state this year. It was an absolute record. And they didn't pay the registered agent bill either, so they're going to get a nice nasty letter in the mail in the next few days telling them we quit. And once we quit and send in a letter of resignation to the state will remove us and their LLC status becomes forfeit. Now, imagine if a month down the road after your LLC is forfeit, you've done nothing with it, you've done nothing to fix the problem. Joe does a random check on the status of your company and finds out he just lended money to a company that no longer exists. You think he's going to be too happy about that? Nope. But the problem is that a lot of people just set it once and forget it. And that doesn't work. You've got to stay disciplined in everything you do, not just with the LLC, but with the properties, keeping them up, making sure your tenants are good and everything to that effect. The biggest thing that I've seen where business owners, and probably many of them that just disappeared and didn't pay their bills, they get in over their heads and they have no system in place, no principles by which to go. They're just like, all right, we're gonna borrow money, throw it at it, and we're just gonna make all this money. Doesn't work that way, but I'm guessing most of you in this room probably already know that. You've got to stay disciplined. You've got to stay focused. So there's, like I said, unfortunately, yes, I know, the economy and all that, costs are everything. But I'm sorry, if you're in business, you've still got to pay your bills and you've still got to make sure the work gets done. So have a plan in place. And yeah, we know some states make it harder than others to flex when the market does. But my 2 cents on it is have plans and have systems in place to make sure that not just the initial startup of your investment, your business, or whatever it is, goes forward. You need to make sure that you have a system in place so that maybe you have AI to automate some tools, but make sure that at the very minimum, you are automated in the things you need to be doing in your business so that you can get back and focused on the stuff that you really want to do. And nothing I said was intended as legal advice. Joe, I pass the mic back to you.
Bob, thank you as always. Real estate investor discipline. I think that's the core to contributing to all fields of success in the space. If you don't have discipline, I don't think you have anything. If you're not getting back to people, you're not being consistent in what you're doing, you're gonna have problems in real estate. It's gonna seep through, and people are gonna see that. Just from a financial acumen and being in certain crowds, it won't make a lot of sense. They'll be like, why do I want to work with that individual? I want to work with somebody that's out there doing things, being in front of people, discussing different subject matter. And to tie back to Amy, AI has allowed me to put more blogs, more articles out, more polls out for people to vote on, more video work. I mean, most podcasts that people start don't go past 10 podcasts. It's commitment. It's the consistency. It's the willingness to provide insight to one another, to not concern yourself with competition, to do your due diligence as a real estate professional. Linda, good morning, and thank you for coming in this morning. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to a discussion, real estate investment principles.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing great this morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Linda Pliagas, and I'm the owner of Realty411.com. We're a news and information website dedicated to advancing knowledge in real estate. Our mission is to increase knowledge, inspire new and established investors, and hopefully inspire a lot of new people to start investing in real estate. As far as real estate principles go, my favorite real estate principle is an easy one to remember. It's called the 1% rule. Now, the 1% rule in real estate is a simple guideline that suggests a property's monthly rent should be at least 1% of the purchase price. Now, let's explain this further. This means that if you buy a property for $100,000, you should aim for monthly rent of at least $1,000, which is 1% of $100,000. Now, this is a quick way for investors to assess potential rental income and profitability of an asset. It's just, a very simple, basic rule that investors use. And I think it's one that you should remember and really use when you analyze a property. Now, let's see, it does have limitations. Now, the 1% rule doesn't account for all costs associated with property ownership, such as taxes, insurance, maintenance, and repairs. But it does give you an overall view of the rental potential of that asset and whether it can be a healthy investment for your portfolio or not. Thank you, Joseph.
Hey, Linda, thank you for coming on this morning. It's been a minute. I don't think people take into account enough expenses when they're looking at their PITIA, evaluating a property, and especially on the West Coast. I mean, you got a lot of moving parts there with taxes, rent, landlord-tenant issues. Are you seeing the discussion changing on the West Coast? On holding, or is it still a flipping strategy right now because there's just not enough meat on the bone? What's your thoughts on that as you're talking to investors recently?
Yes, a lot of the investors here are flipping for profit. That's really popular. And I believe it will always be popular in this market because the fact of the matter is there's a lot of older people that are, either retiring and moving away from the area, or unfortunately they're passing on and the kids no longer want the property. So there will always be a market for flipping. And I think most of the investors in this area, that's what their goal is. Their goal is to make money flipping full time. It's definitely, a sexy part of real estate. And it's been glamorized so much by reality shows on, HGTV and such that, everybody wants to get in that business. It is hard to find long-term solid rental investments because of the price of the properties. However, I will say that investors who live in urban markets, if they're just willing to drive out 2.5, 3 hours away from their, urban centers and urban cores, they will be able to find properties that are priced much lower and that are still in high demand rental markets. So that's what we advise people to do. Just, go out 2.5, 2 hours, 3 hours away from where you live and start searching for long-term rental holds in those markets that are further away from very high-priced central urban areas.
And any quick updates on Realty 411 and events and webinars?
Oh, thank you, Joseph. Yes, right now we're putting all of our effort into our in-person events that we're going to be hosting in beautiful Dana Point, California on July 19th. We are going to be, of course, doing some more virtual events. However, we're a little bit behind on scheduling them because I took a little bit of time off to relax, and I'm getting back in the swing of things. So definitely be on the lookout for more virtual events because we're definitely going to be scheduling more in the upcoming weeks. Thank you for asking.
Sounds great, Linda. Thank you for coming on. Building a high-performing real estate investor team is essential for long-term success, and it ties into principles, right? Some key roles on your team and strategy you should use: maximizing performance and minimizing risk and growing wealth. I mean, I have my go-to people. Like, I needed an LLC established rather quickly for 2 purchases for a client on Friday. And I just did a text introduction. And the individual I obviously introduced was Bob. And Bob was extremely responsive and extremely straightforward and transparent to, what can be done and how quickly it can be done. That made me look good with my client. Okay, so I want to introduce people that are going to be responsive, be responsible. I met with a management group. It's got to be like 4 or 5, maybe 5 months ago. They were telling me they're going to get this legal group to do some presentations at our events here in Philadelphia. They sucked. They didn't get back to us. They were they were cryptic messages. I wouldn't hire those people. They were terrible. And I told my property management team, like, I can't use these people. They're not even getting back to me. I wouldn't trust them not showing up to the event. Might as well give them an eviction to submit. That frightened me a little bit. I'm like, why would I ever use these guys? Or the person doesn't want to just call you back and they just want to text you as a professional. Listen, there's nothing going to go further as a real estate professional than talking to somebody and having that deeper discussion. I saw it this past 3 days in Indianapolis, having deeper discussions with 200 people. I walked out talking to at least 180 of them. Right? That's a great return on my time and my investment. Sitting down with property managers and finding out what's ticking in their space. I'm having a meeting on Monday with another property management company at 12 because I want to know what's going on specifically and how we can work together correctly and what is the proper handoff. Talking to tax strategists or CPAs or bookkeeping services. When's the last time you've done that? When's the last time you went to a presentation that an attorney was providing strategy? Or an insurance broker, understanding where insurance is going. Insurance is letting up a little bit on pressure on costs. I'm seeing that a little bit, but are you aware of that? And how many wholesalers do you talk to a week? Bird dogs. These are team strategy principles: clear communication, alignment on goals, systems, incentivizing performance, and due diligence. Stephen, good morning and welcome. Brief overview: who you are, what you do, and thoughts to a discussion: real estate investment principles. Stephen, go on. There you go.
Yep. This is Steve Franco, REI homepage. I am a broker and investor and getting deeper into the self-storage space. And it's funny, as I've been building my back office the last few weeks and building out technology, I've actually had my developers start working a little bit on making it a software as a service that we can offer to people, tracking, doing a little bit of that AI stuff that I think Linda and Amy were talking about, of being able to automate your outreach and communications and a lot of your accounting and stuff. Because if you're not automating things, if you're not making your life easier, and if you're not making your client's life easier, it's not going to work. So technology and back end goes hand in hand with having a strong team, I think. And the other thing that for me is a principle is it always comes back to two things. What category of real estate are you going to focus on? Because it's great that you're a broker and you're this and you're that, but I'm an investor first. And I'm looking for deals for me first, and I'm looking for deals for my clients as well. I don't compete. But my goal is, what can I do to build passive income? And along with that is then, what sector? Are you a flipper? Are you in the mixed use space? Are you in the residential space? And knowing your numbers there. I've been having an interesting conversation with a friend in New Jersey, because he exclusively buys rentals in New Jersey, which, as we all know, don't make really nearly as much money as other parts of the country, and in some cases break even until the equity builds up. And we've been having a great debate back and forth between, okay, my strategy is I buy in places with 10, 12% returns where I've got great DSCR and I'm cash flowing every month. I worry less about appreciation. And I watch him literally in some cases put month after month money into a property, hoping that, planning on it, I guess, assuming and doing very well at it, that it's going to appreciate. So you have to run your numbers based on the sector you're in. Self-storage is very different than residential, and based on what you're looking to get out of it. He's not eating out this money. He has extra cash he can pour in. He's looking 5, 10, whatever years down the road. I'm looking at monthly cash flow. I'm looking at those kinds of numbers. And the last comment there is, we always say your team, that backs into having a construction team you can count on showing up and giving you a fair bill. So to me, the 2 cents are, run your numbers, have a strong back office technology and numbers wise and operational wise, automate as much as you can, and then have a good team. But know the numbers and know how to do the numbers for the sector you're in, and get the team mentorship you need to do that right. Those principles, and the last one is deliver a quality product at whatever level of price you're giving. You're giving a cheap apartment, it can be affordable. It doesn't have to look like junk. That's what I got. Hopefully something in there is useful.
Yeah, Steve, you're right. I see too many real estate professionals trying to do too many things at the same time. I think, if you're scattered, you're gonna present yourself scattered to others. I see when people focus on very specific asset types or profession, they accelerate way further, way quicker, and they attract that karma-like atmosphere to what they're trying to attract, right? So I focus strictly in single family through 4 family, 5+ units on the multifamily side, 2+ units on the mixed use side. I'm very focused on what I'm looking at. And then I focus on fixed to rent, fixed to flip, and new construction. Construction lines of credit, unsecured business lines of credit. It's all about providing money and deploying money for the real estate investor. I used to apply some of that to the real estate investor friendly owner occupant, but I wasn't enjoying myself. I wasn't passionate about it. I'm very passionate about what I do. Like, we had a quick text interaction this week in regards to a client that I already provided terms. He decided not to take them, and look what happened. His deal had blowback, right?
It blew up, yes.
Exactly. It wouldn't have blew up with me, but he just refused to listen, and that's okay. It's the Willy Wonka technique. A lot of us are old enough to remember Willy Wonka telling the little chubby little German kid not to eat from the chocolate pond. He wouldn't listen, and he fell in the pond. You can only tell people, no, wait, stop. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And actually, this particular person, he and I had a similar interaction 1.5 years ago. So when he came back on this one, I was like, oh my God. And I told him, go to you up front, whatever. And then when I ended up in this situation, I'm like, I'm just going to take the deal away from you and buy it myself. The deal's still a good deal, but I can't play this, which is unfortunate. I hated burning that bridge, but I had a promise to make to the seller.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was quite ironic. I didn't wish ill harm on the individual, but he refused to listen, and that's what happens. And that's okay. I mean, not that doesn't always happen where I get to see that, but listen, I set out a very specific terms for him. He was looking for something that he was not qualified for, and it obviously bled through at a closing table. So I'm sorry that you were part of that, but I hope you identify the opportunity for yourself or somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. And I just we should all have whatever sector or type or whatever we are, is have that resource to move a deal that doesn't fit you. If you're a self-storage, small market self-storage investor, for example, and self is where I'm going a little bit, so I'm focusing on it, and you get a deal that's residential, or you get a deal that self-storage is too big for you, or is outside your radius, this community here, Joe's community, whatever, is a great network. Have people you can dump that off to. Hey, that's not for me, but I know a wholesaler friend who might pay me, might pay you, whatever, might be able to do something with that. Hey, I can't help with that loan because I focus in your case on fix to flip and so forth. But you're real quick with the answer of, okay, here's the guy you need. Have that team available, because even if you can't do the deal, maybe you make a couple bucks, maybe you just help somebody, but at least you provided some value to that person or that situation. And maybe you do make a wholesale fee. Maybe you do make something out of it. But in your team, you need the network of, what do I do with things that I don't do?
Thank you, Stephen. Felix, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, real estate investment principles.
Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising, Joe. Felix Buchanan Sr., Buchanan Biz Enterprises, the JLix Group, team leader of a team in Baltimore Exit Realty Perspective. My advice in the discussion is at first foremost, have your team. You got to have your team to, as everyone said previously, to whom is going to be your CPA, who's rehabbing your property, the realtor that you're going to use once you look to sell the property. From there, with building your team, you need to know what your exit strategy is. Knowing where you're going to get your financing from. Are you using hard money lending? Are you using private lending? Are you using business funding? Know those things ahead of time. Again, know what your exit strategy is, because then that also lets you know what neighborhood you're going to go to, what your return on your investment is going to be. It starts to let you know what your rehab cost is going to be, especially once you get and stay within the neighborhood and then expand. Know what your plan is all the way around getting into your deal. That's really it. I think that you guys covered majority of everything. That's just my knowledge on it. And that's it for me.
How's Baltimore treating you?
It's awesome. I mean, at the end of the day, Baltimore's rehab market and investment market is always great, whether it's from a rental side or it being a buyer side. Right now, I think that it's more the rental side because of a lot of people being scared to buy homes because they don't understand that they can refinance. And I think some of it is obviously lack of education. But from here right now, it's high rentals. Because of what's going on in DC and certain areas around us, I look at it that it's high rental. And I think that for me, it's always been good rent to own markets, where now you have people that, okay, fine, you're going to rent, however you can rent. And then now in a year, 2 years, however much time it takes, and now they're in a position to purchase the home. So I think that that's also a great opportunity for situations like that.
Felix, thank you as always. Safe travels on a Sunday.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Defining your principles as a real estate professional is about setting a clear foundation for how you conduct business, make decisions, and build your reputation. Principles act as your personal and professional compass, especially important in an industry where trust, timing, ethics can make or break a long-term success. Integrity over opportunity. Client-centered decision-making, data-driven actions, consistency and discipline, long-term vision, service-oriented leadership, accountability, and ownership. Resilience is in uncertainty, and ethical wealth building. lifelong learning. Be a student of the game. Joseph, some final words to our discussion this morning, real estate investment principles. Joseph Martella, going once. There you go.
Yeah, so no, really good information as always, Joe. And I know I say it every time, but I mean, really deep conversation, really deep and meaningful conversation. I mean, these are conversations that you would find in a mastermind. You wouldn't find at, an hour seminar at a RIA or or one of those other things. This is stuff for you to walk away with and actually build your business on. So really good conversation. Really proud to be part of this. And thank you for having me.
Joe, thank you as always. I want to thank our sponsors, as always, who support us and market our podcast and get it out there in front of people. By the way, we had over 4,000 views to our podcast last Sunday. I mean, we're really on all pistons right now. I'm very happy to see that and the results and the conversations I have. We did a podcast from the Landlord Expo, a surprise pop-up on Friday, which was a lot of fun. That got 1,000 views, 1,200 views. But I want to thank Mr. Yaro Perkins, my co-founder and co-host of this podcast, with Perkatech, providing social media for real estate professionals, as well as just professionals in general in website design and graphic artwork, analytics. I'd like to thank Lendmark Capital, where I'm a senior loan analyst providing nationwide asset-based lending for real estate professionals throughout the country. I'd like to thank MB Capital Solutions, where I'm a referral partner providing unsecured business lines of credit for real estate professionals and business professionals. I'd like to thank Realty 411, Miss Linda Pelagas down below, providing national publication as well as national events for real estate professionals and services throughout the country. This has been a great half year so far. We're at the half year mark. We're over 100 podcasts. I really want to thank everybody for their engagement, their follow-ups, the conversations we have. But you need to put pen to paper. This is go time. This is when it gets you gotta really hit the metal and keep moving. All right. You're mid-year. Where are you and where you need to be? Right. So you got to set some serious strategic planning through marketing, through video work, through posts, podcasts, blogs, whatever you need to do to get in front of people and stay relevant and stay educated and be out there a couple times a week. Now, this week we have a great week of events locally. I'll be in Philadelphia tomorrow night at our Mastermind Strategy Group, 6:30. Tuesday night, I'll be in Delaware County at the DPI group, which I go to every couple months. Another great concentrated investor group meeting. Wednesday, I'll be in Lehigh Valley for my Mastermind Strategy with John McAllister. Thursday, I will be up in the North Jersey market in Kenilworth, New Jersey, my hometown, but having a happy hour with real estate investors. I think we're going to have about 60 or 70 of them. Then Saturday, we have another real estate networking group back at my office with John McAllister. Another 50, 60 in real estate investors diving in with creative strategy opportunities. We'll be back here next Sunday morning for another great podcast at 9 a.m. I want to thank everybody this morning. It's just, it's humbling because, I'm out there, meeting and greeting people. I'm inviting people to this podcast as well. Always say, hey, listen, come on to the podcast, get some education, learn something, meet people, network, build your team of professional experts. I think that's so important. And I think it's something different where you say, hey, come on to my podcast, have a minute to listen in or have a conversation with somebody, or some back channeling with one another. That's important to this space. My quote this morning, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not finding the old, but on building the new. Socrates. Everybody have a great week. Stay in touch. Reach out to Joe, Bob, Linda, myself. I'd like to have a one-on-one. We're providing also still complimentary podcast interviews for any of the real estate professionals below. And we're offering the CE course for real estate agents nationwide on asset-based lending. And we have the white label marketing product as well, if you'd like to talk about that. So everybody have a great week, great Sunday, and I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you.